and everyone is still talking about SBF. Robert Kiyosaki calls FTX the Bernie Madoff of crypto. I think that's a pretty fitting name. Even though last night, I covered what Kevin O'Leary thinks. He still thinks SBF is a good guy and he would invest with him and again, which is such a weird thing to be saying afterwards. But I think most people agrees with Robert. They don't believe SBF is a good guy. He made a lot of crucial mistakes that led us to where we are right now. And unfortunately, the contagion is still spreading. So Genesis crypto lending unit is halting customer withdrawals today in the wake of FTX collapse. So many people are not familiar with Genesis. I've heard of them in passing. Basically, they're another lending company like BlockFi or Celsius, and they primarily work with institutions, not so much on the retail side. But because they are partnered up with Gemini, they're the ones powering Gemini's Earn program. So a lot of you guys may be on Gemini. They're a smaller exchange in the U.S., but very secure. And all these interests that they offer, well, that's from Genesis. Genesis also is quite huge themselves. They actually own CoinDesk, and they're very much involved with other things in the crypto space. So they are quite big. But the fact is, or the fact remains that them shutting down withdrawals is not good. Not good at all. That means there was some kind of connection. Whether or not they had a lot of deposits on FTX or a bank run was happening and they couldn't withstand it, right? We know bank run has been happening on several other exchanges like Crypto.com. Seems like for now they have withstood it, and others like KuCoin and everyone else, right? But overall, they all seem okay for now. But no one was paying attention to Genesis because they're really kind of behind the scenes. So of course, this doesn't look good for anyone. It doesn't look good for Gemini especially because right now as an exchange, right, you don't want a bank run to happen. You don't want to cause more FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt that forces people to withdraw more. And this could not have come at a worse time for Gemini, right? Keep in mind that, again, this is with their partner Genesis. That's a market bell. Not Gemini themselves, okay? Gemini is not stopping withdrawals. They want to make that clear distinction, but however, they did partner up with Genesis and offer this Earn program, and that is what is in question right now. But if you look through their official tweets, we're working with Gemini team to help customers redeem their funds from Earn program as quickly as possible. This past week has been incredibly challenging and stressful time. We are disappointed the Earn program SLA will not be met because it's 5 days. We will continue to work with them on behalf of all Earn customers. And most importantly, this does not impact any other this does not impact any other Gemini products and services. They have a full reserve exchange and custodian. All customer funds held on Gemini Exchange are held one-to-one and available for withdrawal anytime. By the way, I just noticed that not only on Twitter there's a blue check mark, there's another check mark underneath that says official now. So I guess that's a new thing. So you get double verification on a side note. But yeah, so that's the latest that's happening. Okay. So do I think Gemini is in trouble right now? No, but a lot of people will look at this and say, hey, you guys should have known better. And a lot of people will be very unhappy with Gemini. So there'll probably be some withdrawals. But do I think there's going to be a bank run and a collapse? At this point, no. As for Genesis themselves, we have to wait and see what else is affected. Because like I said, this is just their lending unit. Genesis itself is huge. Okay, they are absolutely huge. Like I said, they own CoinDesk and they own, I believe, they're into Bitcoin mining as well, and of course lending and a whole bunch of stuff. So we will see, I guess, as the days go on, what's truly happening with them. All right. So unfortunately, the contagion is still spreading, all from one company's collapse. And people are wondering what we should do with SBF, because right now he's still sitting pretty in the Bahamas under lockdown within his mansion, right? And authorities from both countries, since the U.S. is looking at this very seriously, the U.S. Justice Department, the SEC, the CFTC, and possibly even the FBI is looking into what happened, what transpired, right? So they're thinking about extraditing him into the U.S. for questioning, and maybe permanently, right? And he won't be in a comfortable position, not in a $35 million mansion. So that's also happening, being talked about right now. Okay, so that's the latest with the FTX drama. Something else that's kind of related, kind of not. I just saw this broke too, so I want to talk about it. But obviously the other big project that collapsed before FTX was Luna. So it appears that after the audit that has been ongoing since May till now, whatever authority's been looking at it, it appears that Do Kwon and team were actually telling the truth in terms of spending money to defend the peg. We know that UST got depegged. Now we know that SBF and FTX has something to do with the depeg. May have been an accidental thing, but whatever the case, they did start it. But after the whole depeg happened, the Luna Foundation guard said they spent $2.8 billion to defend it. Now, a lot of people didn't believe it, thought that maybe, they were taking funds away or this and that. No, they spent $2.8 billion in total, Bitcoin stablecoins, to try to maintain that peg that was within their reserves. On top of that, Terraform Labs also spent $613 million of their own funds, basically their profits, to defend the peg too. So if you add it together, they spent $3.4 billion to defend the peg, but it wasn't enough because UST at the time was still like 6 or 8 billion, and it just wasn't enough money, right? But I thought that was interesting. Even though that's the case, the South Korean authorities still think that something fishy happened. So they raided Do Kwon's partner, his other company, Chai Corporation. So this is Daniel Shin, I believe. They raided his home, raided his company now for more information. And of course, I bet they're itching to talk to Do Kwon, who still claims that no one is after him. No one wants to talk to him. He's sitting out in the open, yet no one really knows where that open is. So I don't know if that's the truth, because his counterparts are getting roasted right now in South Korea. So there's that. All right. So besides the contagion, besides the bad news of these projects, you know what? Bitcoin is still here. It's still here. I saw a great interview. People told me to go watch Anthony Papagliano's interview on CNBC yesterday. It's on his own channel. You guys should all watch it, right? He made some great points. Bitcoin holders, the HODLers, the HODLers are not deterred by this, okay? Bitcoin is different. It's a different animal, different beast. It's a decentralized network, decentralized payment. It's a store of value. It's a hedge against inflation, whatever you want to call it, right? There's no one person, one entity, one country, one bank that controls it. It's different. And Bitcoin has seen through some bad times, very, very bad times, but the holders stay strong. Over 66% of holders continue to hold Bitcoin. The addresses continue to go up. I've shown you guys these metrics, for a very long time. These measure the fundamentals of Bitcoin, and they continue to get stronger. And the miners. Miners are sending less Bitcoin to the exchanges since the 2020 halving. Miners are still increasing their hash rate. They're not giving up. Despite the fact that I know some miners have to sell because Bitcoin's at a level where They just have to in order to pay for operations. But most miners that have reported recently that have been publicly traded, they're saying, hey, you know what? We're hoarding and keeping everything. So these are all fantastic things. Tim Draper, also one of the biggest Bitcoin bulls out there. You don't hear about him much, but he still believes 250K Bitcoin for 2023, which is only next year. He still believes that that can still be a possibility right before the next halving event or the halving event in 2024. Give or take 6 months, but he still believes that is the case. And of course, all these other metrics and on-chain stuff that I've been showing you guys still indicate, man, right now is a fantastic, fantastic buying opportunities, just like all the previous bottoms, just like all the previous scares that we had. And we had a lot of scares previously. So don't give up, guys. Stay strong. And take a look at this. Number of addresses above 1 Bitcoin is flying up. So part of the fundamentals I was talking about. Not only are the big boys still stocking up OTC behind the scenes, but the HODLers, the HODLers, the new retail investors coming in, they are buying. So stay strong. All right. Now, lastly, just some economic stuff. I usually lead off with it, but, recently there's so much FTX contagion stuff. So that has to come number one. But as for the U.S., it's looking, a little reddish today, and that's because Target just got absolutely hammered because Target warns of weak demand, right? Exactly what Powell wants, right? Right now, we haven't talked about Powell for a while. It seems like it was so long ago. But we still do have to worry about a rate hike that's coming up in December. So that's coming. So everyone's still looking at whether or not inflation is tapering out or if it's increasing, what's happening with the labor force, what's happening with wages, what's happening with overall consumer demand. We're starting to see it. It's starting to crumble, right? Target is not doing good. Amazon's not doing good. Somehow Walmart said they're okay, but most retailers are seeing demand go down, down, and down. Even with the mortgage coming down a little bit, the demand is still down, right? This is part of Powell's plan. But is he go overboard? Is he go too far reaching and the demand drops so low, then we actually go into a deep recession, possibly one that's the worst that we have seen for decades. Hopefully not. And it's not just the US. I saw this. UK's inflation hit 41-year high. It jumped a full percent from August or September to October. So it was 10.1%. It jumped to 11.1%. And many people think that this will continue on. So UK inflation is definitely worrisome right now. All of Europe's inflation is worrisome right now, right? Because the war is ongoing and winter is starting to hit, right? How are countries going to survive without that Russian gas and oil? We will see. But the good thing is, it seems like that World War III moment from yesterday may be gone. I don't know, at least temporarily. Hopefully it never comes. But Poland says the missile that hit and killed 2 people were actually from Ukraine, not from Russia. So good thing that this is not escalating. So that's good.